Hello, hello! Welcome to the HVAC Diaries. Today is Saturday, August 5th, and this is my weekly HVAC vlog. This vlog is brought to you and sponsored by New Calgon. Actually, I did a bit of New Calgon shopping this week, and I made this tiny little video for my Instagram. Here, check it out. Alright, you guys, are you ready for some more HVAC adventures? I'll take you on some. Actually, this week we were kind of like all over the place. In fact, one day, there was a day where our first two jobs of the day were 100 kilometers apart. So much driving this week, but so much driving every week. I think my favorite job of the week, the most interesting one, was a major maintenance we performed on a label printing chiller at our packaging factory. And what's really cool about working there is that, well, first of all, there's so much interesting equipment in that room, just doing various things, printing various things, but also what they're printing. Like, I see the labels of things that I use in my everyday life that are in my kitchen that are like coming out of that printer. I think that's very cool. And also, they've got this wall of different colored inks, like a serious wall of inks that are different colors that, like, they've got a whole shelf of different purples that look the same to me, but they've got a different barcode, a different name, purple name. Very cool. I thought it was fascinating. Anyway, in order to perform this major maintenance, we have to do various flushes and cleans and rinses, and we have to add additives that have to circulate for a certain amount of time. So we were there for most of the day on Monday. And it was just interesting. Lots of flushing, getting all of the water out of the tank. Luckily, the tank itself on this chiller is pretty small, but there's also the water loop that's inside the equipment that's quite long, so it takes quite a long time to drain it. And the fitting on the drain is an 1.5 inch fitting, which is a very strange pipe size for like vinyl hosing. So we had to, my dad made this special fitting that was like 1.5 inches down to, I think we had it down to 7/8, and because we had 7/8 pipes, so we ran that out to the sink. We replaced the water filter. And then once everything had been done, we added the last bit of chemical, and then we filled up the tank, and then we added the appropriate amount of glycol. And I use my little new Calgon Glycol refractometer that always makes me feel like a pirate when I'm using it because it feels like a telescope. Anyway, I try to show you guys so you could see the level of the glycol, but it's really difficult to get it on the camera. Also, part of that major maintenance is the condenser. It's in a very clean environment, but the condenser still gets quite dusty. So yeah, we just clean the condenser coil just with a brush. So now that the service has been performed, this chiller is gonna work so much better. It's gonna be great. A little TLC goes a long way. We also did a very kind of, dare I say, annoying job. It feels to me more like a handyman's kind of job, but we were there for another reason, so we just did it anyway. So it was a hostel in downtown Vancouver. They've got this like kitchen, I guess, for their staff and also for the people that are staying there, for the hostel, what do you call them? Guests? Yeah, okay, guests. Anyway, so they've got 3 display coolers there where people can put in their own food. It's got to be labeled with their name and their departure date. So there's all these random packages of food in there. And one of them, so they've got these glass sliding doors on the coolers and they just weren't closing anymore. People would open it, grab their stuff or throw something in there and walk away, and the door would just stand there. It wouldn't actually end up closing because the rollers on the doors were just old and damaged and just not rolling anymore. So we grabbed some more rollers and we replaced them. Like a handyman type job, just because there's literally no refrigeration in that job. It's just interesting to me how many components and things that we have to think about in refrigeration, like lighting and fans and then the refrigeration. We had one really tough day this week. We had to do a bunch of work on a really hot rooftop. And hot, yes, all rooftops are hot, yes. However, this one is extra hot because it's on top of a factory that makes oat milks. And they've got all these steam stacks coming off the roof. So as we're standing there on the roof, the steam is just blowing onto us. So hot, so crazy hot. We had lots of water with us, definitely stayed hydrated. I also made this little joke video. It caused a bit of a ruckus on social media. But yeah, it was a tough job because first of all, to get there, we have to go through a little maintenance office, up these stairs into a mezzanine storage area, which is like, literally, I'm not exaggerating, it's like 10 or 20 degrees more, like, hotter than the plant. I don't know why. Maybe they're funneling hot air into there. I don't know. Anyway, it's like a hairdryer up there. So we have to go through that, up the stairs, through the roof hatch, and then we have to walk it across the roof. And there's lots of things that we have to climb over. And in order to do this job on that day, we had to take the refrigerant recovery machine, which is pretty clunky and heavy. We had to take 2 refrigerant recovery bottles, like cylinders. We had to take 2 full refrigerant tanks to put it back in. Let's see, the vacuum pump, the scale, the extension cord, our tools, and of course the waters that we had to drink. Lots and lots and lots of supplies and equipment. So just getting ourselves situated and set up, I'm like, I need a break. It's actually quite a serious thing. We have to take heat stroke and sunstroke very seriously in our jobs. So the job itself was to replace the filter dryers that were blocked. So we did that. We had to recover all the refrigerant, replace those filter dryers, and put it all back together. However, when we put it all back together and we tested it all again, we figured that there's more against these units, unfortunately. That steam is causing some crazy head pressures, like just way more pressure than we need there. Also, the condenser coil on one of the units is so mangled. We think somebody tried to pressure wash it and didn't know what they were doing, so they've bent all the fins in one direction. So I sat there just because we had time, waiting for the vacuum pump and all that stuff. I had time, so I sat there with a little screwdriver. And we actually have these combs. They've got a few prongs on them. They're plastic. And the idea is that you put it inside the fins and you scrape them down. And as you're scraping them, they're straightening. But you guys, I have never ever had any luck with those. I find that you got to put those prongs in such a specific certain way. And if it gets out at all, then you're doing more damage than you're fixing. It just flattens it further in. So I find a little tiny screwdriver, just doing one by one. It looks like it takes forever. It does. It's painstaking, but it's I think the most effective way to do it. Anyway, so it straightened out a bunch of those fins, and behind all of those fins was dirt. It was just sitting there. So that coil definitely needs some love. It needs to be straightened out a bit more, especially because I was doing one side and then walked around to the other side and I'm like, the whole thing is mangled on this side. Crazy. On the second unit that we also had to replace a filter dryer on, we had to do the whole same procedure on another unit. We also had to replace the contactor on it, which is something that I got to do while my dad was doing the dryer on the other unit. So on them often, but we repaired an extractor fan for they make like little electronics there. They've got all these little boards and soldering irons and little chips, and anyway, they make electronic control boards there, and the extractor fan just wasn't pulling air out of the room. So we found that the motor shaft bearings were like seized, so we just replaced them. However, you guys, that is definitely not a 3-person job. But all 3 of us were there for it, just like we were there for most of our jobs. That's just the way that we work as a family business. My dad and my brother changed those bearings while I took tons of videos for you guys. It's also kind of cool. I got a little PR package from Stabila, which is a company in Germany that makes levels. And I was going to make this cool video about, you know, testing the level on all these various things. So I bring out my level. I'm like, okay, Dad, I'm going to make this video. And he's like, oh, where's my level? I've got a Stabila. So he brings out his level. And he's like, this thing is over 30 years old. He brought it from South Africa. He used to use it in South Africa for his work. And so now it's here with us, and I think that's the coolest thing. We took this cute photo. Rest of the week were just service calls. I got to look at a flower kiosk in the mall. They've got this really interesting piece of refrigeration equipment where like the evaporator is up in... It's hard to explain. Anyway, the evaporator is up in the kiosk thingamajiggy, and then the condensing unit is on the top. And I was surprised actually at how big the condensing unit is. There's 3 condenser fans up there with a pretty big compressor. And it's just sitting up there, just doing its thing. The fans are at the bottom. The flowers get, what are the flowers? Set to about 36 degrees Fahrenheit and super high relative humidity. So that was a cool, fun job for me. Plus the flowers are so beautiful. We also changed a fan motor at an indigenous housing place They've got such cool artwork outside with these massive totem poles on their buildings. Oh my goodness, they're so nice. We also had a quick service call to a place that holds all of the photos from all of the traffic cameras around the city. So it's always interesting when we get to work there. And a few more other boring service calls. Alright guys, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the HVAC Diaries HVAC vlog. I love taking you on my HVAC adventures every day, every week. So thank you for being here. And thank you to New Calgon for sponsoring this vlog. And thank you to my brother for taking all of the videos, and for my dad for just his patience. And thank you. Hope you guys have a great weekend. It's a long weekend here in BC, so pretty excited about that. See you next week, guys. Take care.